I'm Meg, and I'm going to show you how to make an ice cream cake in a springform pan. You might be wondering why we would make an ice cream cake versus buying one in the store, or what is a springform pan even. So I'll show you what all of that's about in this presentation. So the reason that I bake an ice cream cake sometimes is because, number one, I like the way my cakes taste a little bit better than store-bought ones. Number two, it's a little more cost-effective to make it at home. And number three, you have total control of the ingredients that you use and the flavors that your cake's going to be. So if you have somebody who's kind of picky and wants a particular flavor that they don't really sell in the store-made cakes, then making it yourself is definitely a better option. So the very first thing I'm going to do is determine what flavors of cake I'm going to use, what flavors of ice cream I'm going to use, if I'm going to use any decorations on the cake, what colors I might use, if there's a theme, and all of that's going to depend on what occasion the cake is actually for. Sometimes I'll look online at different ideas for themed cakes, and sometimes I'll try to replicate those. I have brought out my springform pans just to show what I'm speaking of when I'm referring to a springform pan. So this is the large pan. It's a springform pan, which means it has this little buckle right here, which you can close, and that is where it stays on, and it's ready for you to grease and pour the cake into. Then you'll put that into the oven, and when it comes out, you'll open this buckle, and then you can just spread that rim open and lift it off your cake. So this is used for cheesecakes, for any sort of ice cream cake. This is used for any cake that needs to be removed from the pan with a pan that you lift off versus scooping out of the pan. So that's really what the purpose is to keep the cake intact when you're dealing with something like a cheesecake or an ice cream cake, instead of having to dig it out of a pan. I've decided on rainbow chip cake mix and chocolate fudge with cookies and cream and vanilla bean ice creams. So we'll need to preheat the oven to 350. We'll also need to gather our ingredients: the cup of water, the half a cup of vegetable oil, and 3 eggs. And I always start first with mixing my wet ingredients and greasing the pan, of course. Pans are greased. We mix the wet ingredients first. And the reason that we do this is because we want all of the oil, water, and egg to be blended before we put the dry mix in. That way we get an even consistency in our batter. So I start out by moistening all of the dry ingredients, and then I kick the speed up. We're supposed to mix this for 2 minutes. I've separated the first batch of batter between 2 pans. One pan is slightly smaller than the other pan, so what's going to happen is the smaller one is likely going to be finished first, so I'll be checking this one a little bit earlier. So I went ahead and started with setting my timer for 20 minutes. Now we check the small cake. They look like they might need a little bit more time. So we always check the cake for doneness, and we're looking for the toothpick to come out clean. So because we are stacking these cakes and using the pans for another batch of a different flavor of cake, I went ahead and removed these cakes from the springform pans, and I put them on these other pans to cool. I'm going to go ahead and pop them in the freezer for a few minutes to go ahead and cool them down. These are going to be the top layer, which is why I chose this one first, because I want the confetti cake on top and the chocolate cake on the bottom. So just to show you how that works, I've got this one here still in the pan, so I've gone ahead and opened this buckle here, and I've spread the rim of the pan, and I'm going to lift that right off of the cake there, and then I'm going to flip the cake over, and then we're going to reuse these pans real quick. So these two I just pulled out of the freezer. I cooled them for about 15 minutes. They're nice and cool to the touch, which is perfect for working with ice cream. So the second flavor of cake is done, the chocolate cake. So I've gone ahead and cooled that for a few minutes. I'm going to spread the ice cream on top now. On this particular cake, they were torn between using vanilla ice cream or using cookies and cream. So I split it right down the middle. So I've added the top layer, and now I'm going to go ahead and frost this. So now I've frosted it. I've gone ahead and used buttercream. Some people will choose to use Cool Whip or some other type of whipped topping. My people don't really care for that. I prefer Cool Whip or whipped cream topping, but my people don't. So we are using buttercream today. And I've added sprinkles to commemorate the class of 21, which is the graduating class that I'm in here at Mount Sac. Moment of truth, we remove the buckle, spread the rim, and remove the rim. And here we've got a stacked cake. It's melting just a little bit because I'm cutting it directly from the demo. I would have left it in the freezer just a little bit longer to harden that up. And there it is, your ice cream cake made from a springform pan. And there's a single slice. Looks delicious. Congrats, class of 21.